What's up, guys? This is going to be a tutorial on making perfect joints. I have made a tutorial about this a long time ago, but I wanted to make it a little simpler and a little easier to understand, and in HD. So to make perfect joints, I use the grid, and some people don't like using the grid for doing this, but I'm going to show you why I think it's a really good idea. So I'm going to do a Command G and turn the grid on, and I'll go ahead and select the skin color. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the rectangle tool, and I'm just going to draw a shape, and I'm going to make sure that it has at least an even amount of squares selected. So I have 4 squares across, and then I'm going to hit A and add a point. Oops. And then hit T and then move that up 2 squares and hit A and do the same for the bottom. Add a point and drag that 2 down. Now the reason I'm doing this is because I want to make a perfect circle where the joints are. So I'm also going to hit G, and I'll go ahead and select those 2 points that I just added and then hit C. And I'm going to curve those out so they're making a rounded edge. Then all I'm going to do is select everything, so I can hit T and select my shape. I can also hit G and select my shape, and it'll select all of those points, or I can do a Command A, and that does also selects all of the points. So this is, let's say this is going to be an arm. I'll go ahead and do a Command C to copy, Command V to paste, and I'm going to move that new object up above the bottom one. And you can see that overlapping these shapes creates a perfect circle, and this is a really important part of making the joint look correct, is to have this perfect circle. So we're just going to call this layer arm, and I'm going to create a new bone layer, and I'll call it arm bones, and make sure I left click and drag it into that group, that bone layer. Then we're going to go into the bone layer. I'm going to hit A to add bones, and I'll draw from at the very top right into where the center of that perfect circle is, and then I'll draw another one down to where the wrist is going to be. And we'll go ahead and select bone strength, and I'm going to left click and drag to the left just to take that out, because we're going to use point binding, so we don't need that strength. So basic concept, let's go ahead and go into our artwork. I'll hit B, select that top bone so it turns red. Then I'm going to hit G, select the top part of the arm and hit bind points, and then do the same for the bottom. Hit B, select the bone, and bind points over here. Select bind points over here and then bind up here. Make sure you have those points selected. Don't know if I did it. So we can check it really quick. I'm gonna hit Z and just grab the arm, and I didn't the bottom didn't get bound. So let's try that again. Hit B, hit G, it's got the points and the bone selected, and bind that again. Hit Z. Okay, there we go. So by using the grid, you can see right now we've got a really nice bend to this arm, or this object I should say. And I want to, let's go ahead and hide this edge right here so we can get a nice look at that. So when I bend it, it looks really nice. And let me turn the grid on again, Command G. And this top point, now that we have this aligned correctly, I'll go ahead and hit T, select just that top point, and just drag that down so it's straight across. And then hit Command G again to hide. So now that we have the basic construct of our arm, actually, let's go ahead and turn that back on. We're going to put the top part of the arm behind the bottom. So I'm just hitting Q and selecting it so it turns checkered. Then I'm hitting the down arrow. So now it's behind it. And then we'll go ahead and hide the straight line. And let's bend it now. So now you can see there's a nice bend at the elbow. So the reason I do this is because it just makes it extremely easy to line up using the grid tool. A lot of people don't like using this because Anime Studio or MOHO, when you move around objects, a lot of times you'll move around the layer instead of the artwork. And I'll show you what the difference is. And it's really easy to fix or understand. So if I do a Command A and select my arm and hit T and move this around, you can see that the grid stays in place. There's nothing moving. But a lot of times people will use the transform layer tool and they'll grab it, and when they move it, the grid's moving along with the artwork, and we don't want that. We always want to do Command T and grab using this tool right here, which is the transform points tool, not transform layer. But let's see. So now that we have this really nice joint, the only thing that you need to make sure that you keep consistent are these points right here where the joint is. But what's nice about this is, I'll go ahead and turn the grid off. If I add more points to the top, say I want this arm to be more detailed, I'll add points, I'll make a bicep, I'll grab points, hit T, move the shoulder around, and kind of make it look more like an arm. We'll make this a really like superhero muscular arm. Do the tricep muscle in the back of the arm. This will just be a side view. I can even hit A and add some more points for some definition. Here's the bicep. Same thing with the bottom. I hit A. If I add more points, I can add the forearm muscles. And I can even grab these points down here and make the wrist smaller. Hit C and curve these out. Maybe add some more definition lines. I'll hit U and then do create shape. So all I'm doing is adding some detail to this arm. Maybe add a line here for the shoulder. Hit U. Oops. Create shape. Create shape down here. Add another line. I'm going to hit W and just taper the lines on here. Like that, and hit C and curve them out a little bit just so it looks a little more natural. Like that. And just basically getting it the way I want it to look. So this is a very detailed arm. And if I hit A, now what's going to happen, you're going to see something weird go on. If I hit Z and test this, I'm moving it, but now those detail lines aren't moving with the arm because I haven't bound them yet. So I'm just going to go back to frame 0. I'll hit B, select the artwork, and when I hit B, select this bone, it'll highlight what's bound to it, but these new lines aren't bound to it yet. So I'm going to hit G and hold down Shift. And that way it lets me select multiple points without deselecting. So if I click on the ones that I just made for the top, make sure I get those, and none of the bottom yet. We're just using this top bone. I'll hit bind points, bind points. Now I'll go to the bottom, hit B, select the bottom, the forearm. I'll hit G, hold Shift down, and select those two pieces of detailed lines that I created for the forearm and bind those. So now if I go back to the arm bone layer and move that around, now it's all connected correctly. These look a little weird, but this artwork's not going to be great. It's just to kind of show you guys how this would work. So now I've got a really nice arm. And also, let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to hit B. I'm going to rename this forearm, that bone, and I'm going to create a little smart bone action. So I'll go to the bone layer, go to Window, Actions. Under Smart Bones, we'll create a new action, call it forearm. And if it's named correctly, it'll turn blue in the timeline. Let's go to frame, well, let's just leave it on frame 1 and see how well this looks. So I'll hit T, and I'm going to rotate the arm to about 90 degrees, maybe a little bit more. Then I'll go into the artwork, and so we'll show this guy flexing, so I'll go ahead and make the bicep bigger. Just kind of puff out, move a couple of things in the arm. And then double click back into the timeline. So now when I go to the arm bone layer, hit Z, when I move this, if you notice, the bicep actually will start to increase its size, which is pretty cool. And this is something that's been in the tutorial, or I mean the instruction booklet for a long time, but I thought I'd show you guys in a video form of how that works. So now I want to make another perfect joint for a hand. So I'm going to make a really crappy hand. And this time I'm going to create a new layer, and I'll show you why or how it's easy to keep stuff aligned. So I'll go ahead and create a new vector. I'll call this hand. I'll go ahead and drop it underneath the arm. Make sure it's in the arm bone layer. I'll hit Command G to turn the grid back on, and to make sure that the grid's aligned with the arm and the hand. So here's the problem that a lot of people have. So they'll create a new layer, and let's say they make a new hand. I'll just start with a square. I'm going to draw a really crappy hand. Let's go ahead and add points. Kind of make a thumb. And this is going to be real quick. Make the knuckles. Have the hand come out. I'm going to hit U. Create shape. This is the thumb. Supposed to be. I'll hit C and curve that out. Let's hide this line right here. And I'm just adding some more lines just to make the finger kind of, oops. And just creating shapes. All I'm doing is just making a really quick kind of fist. Curl that out. Maybe hide this. No. I don't want to take too much time on it. I just wanted to show you the concept of why a lot of people don't like using this method for joints, and how it's easy to fix. That's, yeah, well, this is, just pretend this is a really nice looking fist, okay, guys? So what happens is people will do this. They'll create a new hand or a new body part or whatever. They'll use transform layer. Oops, I did this on the, wait, hand. Oh, because it's in the same group. If I try and move the layer, it's going to move everything. No, it's not. So what they'll do, they'll transform layer, then they'll move it into position. Let's put it above the arm. And then what they'll do is they'll have a lot of problems with aligning and doing all this kind of stuff. Well, if I turn the grid on, Command G, you'll notice if I select the arm, the grid moves, and then the hand is in a different position. That's because I moved the layer and not the artwork itself. So I'm going to go back, Command Z, let's get it back into its original position. Right there is where we created it. And instead I'm going to hit G, select that fist, then hit T. So we're going to transform points tool, and then we'll move it into place. Let's put that on top. And then to align this, we're going to use that same technique that we did for the elbow joint. So let's go to the arm, and for now all I'm going to do is line up the 2 points next to the end of the bone. So the left, right, and bottom. So I made this kind of half circle because we're going to use that perfect circle thing again. Then I'll select the hand, And I'm just going to line this point up on the hand, hit A, add a new point so it goes across, and 1 point to the top. And then I'll hit C and curve that out. So basically we're making, if I just click on the arm, you see we've done a perfect circle again. Oops. And I'll go ahead and go to the hand, hit Command G to turn the grid off for a second, and then adjust my artwork, leaving the perfect circle part alone. I'll hit G, grab the hand, all the points except the one next to the perfect circle. Hit T and kind of move it around and adjust it to where it needs to be. And there we go. And then do the same thing. Let's go ahead and hide this line. Actually, let's do Command G, move that line down straight, and select the bone. And because the forearm bone's selected, we can go ahead and just hit A and add a new bone for the hand. Turn the strength down. We'll go to the hand. Let's go ahead and select all the points by doing Command A. Or I can do G and select all the points this way. Left clicking and dragging over and hit bind points, bind points. And then turn the grid off, Command G, and let's see if they've been bound correctly. So the hand's bound to this bottom bone and it's in the correct position, but I think I did it the wrong way. Let's go back to the hand, Command G. Let's make that the top circle, pop that back up so we have that half circle there. I'm gonna hit Z real quick. I just wanted to test this. Okay. Now, because we have that perfect circle, let's go ahead and actually I'm gonna put a point right here. The reason I'm putting a point there is because I want to hit G, grab these points, and then hit T, and while holding Option I can make the wrist bigger or smaller. I need that point on top to make it stay in the correct position. So we'll make that a little wider. I'll select the hand. I'm going to do the same thing, hit A. I'm going to make a point right there. It's because I need all 4 points. Hit T. Make that a little bit bigger. Then I can hit G and just get rid of that point in the arm and the hand, just so the arm or the wrist is a little bit wider. And then I think what I needed to do was make this point go flat from the bottom up. See if that looks better. Command G to hide the grid. It's still a little busted. Where's the arm artwork? Let's go ahead and put that back down like that. And trying to figure out which part to hide. I think that's the top. Yeah, that's a little bit better. It's a little bit off when you turn the wrists, but you really can't, you're not supposed to be able to turn, you can't really turn your wrist that much anyway. Hit G. So I'll hit B. I'm gonna put a bone constraint on it. So let's go to bones, select that, angle constraints, and we'll just do -10 and 10. So you really can't move the wrist that much anyway. So I can move it up and down a little bit. There we go. So what's really nice about this is I've made a pretty detailed arm fairly fast, and I got the smart bone action with the bicep flexing. Actually, let's let's go to the hand. Let's make this him pointing. So I'll just make this a finger. And I can resize the hand. I can grab the points and just kind of resize until it looks right. Get that in position. So now I've got that hand on there. So, you know, you could be like flexing. The beach is that way. That type of thing. So really easy way to create joints. If you have any questions or comments, just leave them down below. Actually, let me go ahead really quick. This is really good for mechanical stuff too. So let's go ahead and do a new vector. I'm gonna just show you really fast. Command G. So let's say we want to make a shovel, or not a bulldozer. You know, you guys know what I'm talking about. Let's go ahead. So I have 2 squares selected. I'm just gonna do the same thing I did with the arm. Create new points, curve those out with C, and I'll go ahead and copy paste that, move it over, hit G. I'll go ahead and move these over, hit T, select this shape, Command C, Command V, copy paste. Holding shift down, I can rotate these in 90 degrees. We've got a perfect circle here. And then, I don't know, let's do the digger, the scoop thing. Just pretend this is a really cool, nice shovel type object. Okay. Create a new bone layer. And we'll call this shovel. And we'll do the same exact thing. Where the perfect circles are, we'll just grab those. And I'll hit bone strength, and I'll go ahead and turn all of those down because we're using point binding again. I'll hit B. Select the artwork, hit B. So I'll select this shape, hit G, select the artwork underneath, bind points, hit B, select the next bone, hit G, select the artwork, bind points, hit B, select this bone, hit G, artwork, and then B, and then the shovel, and bind points. And actually, let me make one more bone. I'm going to deselect everything, hit A, so it pivots from this position. So I'm going to draw a bone here, turn that bone strength down. And all I'm going to do is hit B, and then hit P after I've selected that, and bind that bone to this one. That way it pivots when I move it. So if I hit Z and test this out, we've got this kind of mechanical arm, or robot arm, made extremely fast with very little effort. That is the weirdest digger. It should only be 2 now that I'm looking at it, but whatever. And another way you can, especially with mechanical stuff, you can hide the joints pretty easy. If I go in here, turn the grid back on, I'm gonna increase the grid size, do a Command Shift G, type in 10. So now we have a lot more squares to work with. Let's change the color here. And if I hold Shift and Option down and drag from the center of these points, it makes the circle expand directly out. So I'll do one there, and one there, and maybe one here, just hiding the joints. I'll need to bind them, so I'm going to hit B, select the first bone, and you see it's got the artwork selected, but I need to hold Shift down and select the gray circle. Maybe. So that's selected 2. Bind points. Go ahead and select the second bone. Hit G, select the gray circle again. So that's bound as well. Holding Shift down so it keeps it selected. And then B, G, hold Shift and select the gray and bind that. So now we've got this kind of nice little covering for the joints as well. And if I select them and hold Shift and Option, I can make them, or no, just Option. I think I can make them as big or small as I want. So I can make them just a little bit bigger. And we've got this kind of mechanical contraption arm or whatever with really easy joints made really fast. So Again, that's it. Sorry, I tend to ramble sometimes. I'm trying to make shorter ones. But if you guys have any questions or comments, just leave them down below. Thanks for watching.